Hi, welcome to Talk Shop Live. I'm Melissa Cookston, and I'm so excited to be here today talking about my new book, Fanning the Flames. This book was a long time in the making, and you can tell by the pictures that are in the front and back of it. Some of them are when I was much younger. But before we get started, you can pre-order your own autographed copy. To order your signed copy, just press the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment the word shop if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram to receive a link to purchase in your DMs on YouTube. Just click the link in the description. Today, I'm going to be making some barbecue shrimp and we're going to be making mint juleps. Who doesn't love a good mint julep, right? It's something that the Kentucky Derby is famous for. And in the South, we love a mint julep. And I will give you this little heads up. If you plant mint in your garden, you will have plenty for you, all your neighbors, your entire town, possibly the state. Mint is one of those things that takes the garden over. Now, in this book, I do have some traditional barbecue recipes, but I also have some international inspiration that comes from my travels. I have been afforded the opportunities to go cook barbecue all over the world, and I try to always find ingredients that are indigenous to that area, bring it home, and put my little southern spin on it. So you will find traditional barbecue recipes. I'm going to show you how to pull a pork butt because that recipe's in here, and people ask me all the time, once I've pulled the pork butt, what do I do with it? Let me tell you, you can make quesadillas, you can make nachos, you can make sandwiches. And the good thing about barbecue, it's even better left over. So I'm going to show you how to pull that whole butt. All right. So first, let's get started making some barbecue shrimp. I was going to make these on the grill, which you can do. We've had some weather issues. It is sunny outside today, a little chilly. We barbecue all year round, but right now, it's nice in my outdoor kitchen. So I thought we'd just cook on the hot pad here. You can do this on your stove. If you do put shrimp on the grill, I suggest you wet some skewers for about 30 minutes. Skewer those shrimp so they don't fall through the grates, if that makes sense. So we're going to make our barbecue shrimp sauce first. In this bowl, I have butter and I have my classic rub, which we give you the ingredients for that, so you don't have to worry about if it's not available to you locally. And my Worcestershire sauce, you can just use any kind of Worcestershire sauce. So it's butter, barbecue rub, and a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. So I'm going to put that in the pan and get that all melted down. Now, I'm a little bit of a shrimp snob. I'm just going to throw that out there. I grew up eating Gulf shrimp, and to me, that's the flavor that I love. They seem sweeter along with that brininess that you get from salt water. So I love Gulf shrimp. So that's what I choose. These are about head on. They're U10s. I'm going to say if you use headless, which you absolutely can, they're going to be about 16, 20 count. And I've got about 10 shrimp in here. So when this butter gets nice and warm, we're going to turn it on medium heat. And when the butter gets nice and warm, we're going to cook these shrimp. Now, head on takes a little bit longer than headless, if you didn't know. So, it'll take, 4 or 5 minutes, but it's so easy to do. It is so flavorful. I grew up in the Mississippi Delta. The land is so rich. The artwork is so colorful. And, that's where blues music was found. So we really like to put some flavor in our food that is, similar to our roots of where we grew up. All right, so our butter is nice and warm. I'm just going to go ahead and flip these shrimp in here. I will tell you, I started using these tools when I was doing chef table events to place things on small plates, if you will. But what I have found is they are such a nifty tool to use when you want to flip something in a skillet. And tongs are always, sometimes they get a little wieldy, a little wide. So I'm making sure that these shrimp are all not laying on each other, but in the bottom of the pan. And once again, on about medium heat. Now, while I'm cooking the shrimp, I make barbecue toast. Super duper easy. All you have to do is butter some bread, put a little barbecue rub on it. But I will tell you that when you dredge this bread down through this barbecue butter, it tastes so good. It's like putting that in Melissa. You know what I'm saying? It makes me feel so good. But this barbecue shrimp is a staple, has been at my house. If you don't know much about the Mississippi Delta, it's along the Mississippi River, about halfway between New Orleans and Memphis. So we pull both of those flavors down in the Delta. But the one thing we say is season our food. We like a lot of flavor. And you get that with these shrimp. They just absolutely melt in your mouth. They're so succulent. You hit all the flavor receptors. You get the sweet, the salty, the acidic, just a little bit of kick in the back. Not much from the Worcestershire sauce when it's cooked. And the umami is just out of this world. So it's a good thing. All right, let's go ahead and take a question. So Margaret asked what grill I suggest for beginners. I'll tell you, it depends on what you're cooking. You know, I started off on a little kettle grill. It, was back in the 70s. I just dated myself, didn't I, Margaret? But it was that hot and fast cooking. It's what we cook burgers and hot dogs and steaks on. It is a wonderful tool. It's not expensive. It's easy to use as long as you pay attention to your fire. Always have a spray bottle of water handy, but I still love cooking on a kettle grill. Now, if I'm cooking a big piece of meat like a pork butt or a brisket or a whole hog, I do tend to work on a smoker instead for that. But, a nice little kettle grill works just fine. Now, if you want ease, there are pellet grills out there now that you can literally tell the pellet grill what you're cooking and it'll cook it for you. So you still get that nice grilled or smoked flavor without all the hassle. So, as I'm getting older, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that for sure. Thanks for the question, Margaret. Sasha, how many recipes are in the cookbook? That's a good question. It took me about a year to write this book. So there's 108 recipes. Some of those are sauces or seasonings, but there's a lot of good recipes. There's everything from sides to my favorite. This is the first cookbook that I put cocktails in. And I think that was the most fun that we had. My daughter works with me now. She graduated college during COVID. I said, baby, you got to come work for mama because I'm short of staff. So we had so much fun doing this cookbook, but especially making the cocktails. There's a smoked berry sangria in there, a grilled peach thyme margarita. So yeah, but there's lots of, one of my favorite recipes in this book is we were sitting in Crete at a wine tasting and they brought out this Cretan goat stew. It was so flavorful and I loved it. It reminded me of home, even though I was in Crete. So that's in the book too. A little bit of the international flair. Thanks for the question, Sasha. Dewey asked, Julie, thank you for that question. My first cookbook was more about smoking. The second cookbook was more about grilling hot and fast. This cookbook is a combination of all those things. I'm going to turn this heat down just a little bit. Combination of all those things, plus some international flavors involved as well. We did some chicken wings in this book that are to die for. They remind me of a time when I was in Mexico. And I will tell you that Mexico is one of my favorite food countries. Obviously, Italy, I've spent a lot of time there. Um, but I think Mexico's really underrated when it comes to food. And Mexico City is one of my favorite places to go for food. Thanks for the question, Julie. Oh, shout out to my good friend Susie, who's on spring break with her 2 daughters this week. I'm so jelly. I wanted to be there, but of course I have to work. But I'm sure they're having fun. They're sending me pictures. All right, these shrimp are ready. So we just put the shrimp on the plate. I just lay them around, and you can see they turn this wonderful pink color. So good, so good. Now, to finish these shrimp, I just take the sauce that's left over in the skillet and pour it over the shrimp. Why is that important? I'll tell you why it's important. Because you take this barbecue bread and dredge it like I was talking about earlier, and that is the best bite. The best bite. I will tell you, charred citrus really brings out the sweet. So you can put this down in the pan, or you can just use your grill in order to char citrus. I love sticking citrus, berries, things that you wouldn't think of on the grill to get that great smoky flavor. So this is what this looks like. Beautiful barbecue shrimp, but here's the taste test. Tear off your barbecue bread, and remember, this just has butter and rub on it. Down in that butter, that brings back childhood memories. So wonderful.
Serena asks if you have any vegetarian recipes in the book and any desserts.
Karina asked if there were any vegetarian recipes or any desserts. Well, yes, we have both. Um, the sides are pretty much all vegetarian, although down in the South we tend to put say pork in the beans and things like that. But we have a wonderful grape salad in there. And if you've never heard of grape salad, I hadn't either. I went to a funeral one time and I stole the recipe from a Southern funeral. So there you go. That's how the grape salad recipe came about. Of course, I put my twist on it, but I will tell you that people often ask me to bring that at gatherings. It's a wonderful burst of freshness because the grapes are whole, but it has a sweetness and creaminess to it. Along with, I put pecans on the top of it, and it is fantastic. You made me a mint julep. That just tastes so good. I'm a bourbon fan anyway. So the interesting thing about this mint julep is that we fat wash the bourbon. Fat washing is just taking, usually I use drippings from bacon. I've done it from brisket. You can even just use butter if you want to. So you combine the bourbon with the fat. It cuts the sharpness of the bourbon, mellows it out, but gives you that great taste of, I mean, who doesn't love bacon? Everything's better with a little bit of bacon. Really, it's just bourbon and simple syrup. Now we have steeped the mint leaves with the simple syrup. So you get that minty flavor and then garnished with a little bit of mint. But I'm going to tell you, how cute are these glasses too? They're antique. My daughter found them. Oh, and I'm holding one on the cover. She pointed it out. I deserved a drink that day. It was really hot, really tiring. But it explains to you how to, the recipe explains everything about fat washing, how to fat wash your bourbon. Now, I will say that we like Kentucky bourbon down here. For those of y'all who didn't know, I'm from the state of Mississippi, but we love our Southern friends, and we often bring a lot of their traditions, if you will. The South is a place that we love food, and food is an experience for us. We like bringing people together, our neighbors, our friends, our family, and just having a good time and putting everybody to work. And then, just eating the scrumptious food when it's all ready, but it's really more about the camaraderie and what we call visiting. We love to go visiting. And to get together, there's always food involved. So that's how I became interested in food, interested in cooking food. But this book is really, it's a love letter to cooking as well as my travels and also where I came from. Really small town in Mississippi. So it's all that combined. The minutia of competition barbecue really appealed to my OCD nature, and it elevates the senses. The crackle that you get when you're barbecuing and you hear the fire, the flavor. I mean, your taste buds are absolutely popping off at all these different flavors that we bring in. Seeing that beautiful mahogany color of barbecue. So that's where I got started cooking.
Father too.
Oh, my grandfather. My grandfather was my person. We spent a lot of time together, and I would spend every summer with him. We would work on cars. And really, he is probably what inspired me to love barbecue. When I was a kid in the summers, he would take me to his local coffee shop. It also doubled as the barbecue joint. Remember, this is a small town. And if we sat there long enough with them telling fish stories, um, and lying about how big the fish they caught was, we get to have a barbecue sandwich. And I'm not sure if that barbecue was that good. Might have just been the company I was with, but I'll tell you that that's where my love of barbecue started. And then when I was a teenager, my mom would drive us to Memphis to get ribs. And I thought she was crazy because, no teenager wants to be driving for hours to go get food. But I'm really appreciative of the fact that my mom did that because those ribs were, the beginning to my thoughts about how to cook barbecue. All right, we're going to start pulling this pork butt real quick. Now, absolutely, start to finish, the recipe is in the book, Fanning the Flames. And to pre-order your signed copy, you just press the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment the word shop if you're watching from Facebook or Instagram to receive a link to purchase in your DMs on YouTube. Just click the link and the description, and you got your pre-order done for your autographed copy of Fanning the Flames. And there's a subtitle too. It's Tall Tales and Recipes. Tall tales. In the South, tall tales could be accurate, or they could be from what we remember from having too many mint juleps from the night before staying up barbecuing. So just so you know what tall tales are. All right, so pork butt. The recipe is in the cookbook. When you get it out of your oven or the smoker of whatever you cooked it on, it looks like this. In the Memphis market, this region of barbecue, we cook barbecue low and slow. So we're rendering out all those fats while maintaining moisture and adding flavor. So when you do that, we don't chop our barbecue, we pull it fresh. I also have a Bernese Mountain Dog. I have a rescue problem. So if you see her cute little nose coming over the top of the table, it's okay. She saw the pork butt come out of the warmer over here and smelled it, and she decided she was going to come take a peek. Although I don't give her human food. So the fat cap is up now. So I'm just going to swipe this fat cap off, and you can see this wonderful, beautiful, succulent meat. Pull that fat cap off. You can tell exactly where the fats are. Most of them have rendered, but we don't do any trim work to this just because why? Why waste meat? So once you pull that top fat cap off, look at that. You see how moist and beautiful that is. It's beautiful. Smoke ring. I mean, I could just eat this by itself right now. We are condiment people in the South. That's why you'll find a lot of recipes for sauces in the cookbook. But I mean, look at this. You get absolutely beautiful, moist, succulent meat that's freshly pulled. Nothing else needed. Now, if you wanted to, you could take and add just a little bit of rub, a little bit of sauce, and you're good to go. That's all there is to pulling this pork butt with the recipe that's in this book, and it's ready to eat. Now, it does freeze beautifully, beautifully for, you know, if you want to save some for something you've got going on next week, if you've got a lot of company coming, you can freeze it, reheat it. It's just as good. Now, I will tell you a little bit of secret that I do with pork. And this is probably my Mississippi coming out in me. If I have to freeze pork and reheat it, I add just a little bit more rub and just a little bit of Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola brings out the sweetness in the pork, and it is wonderful for rehydrating pork that you've had to freeze. So there's you a tip or trick.
Sicilian barbecue pizza.
Yes, forgot about that. See, that's why I keep my daughter around. She reminds me of this stuff. Leftover pork is great on Sicilian barbecue pizza. Lauren and I went to the Italian Culinary Institute for some classes, and we learned how to make pizza. Shout out to Jimmy. He's since come back to the States, and he's from New Jersey. One of my most favorite people in the world, but he taught us how to make the best pizza. The recipe's in here. My spin on it, of course. Sorry, Jimmy. Okay. Jason asked, what's the best barbecue sauce? I would say I love my sauce. Obviously, I made this for competition, and it's bottled now. I have 3 different sauces, 7 rubs, injections, flavor dust, Worcestershire sauce. I have a whole pickle collection, because I love research and development on food. So, yes, this sauce is the recipe for the sauce in this book. Just the rub. The sauce recipe I know is in the first cookbook, but I'm gonna get you an answer for that in this cookbook. And remember, in order to order your pre-signed autographed copy, just press the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment the word shop if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram to receive a link to purchase in your DMs. On YouTube, just click the link in the description. Any other questions? What are my go-to kitchen tools? I am a thermometer girl. I've been in the restaurant business for 44 years. I can touch a steak and tell you what temperature it is. But you know what if I've had my hands in ice all day? I don't trust it. A thermometer will tell you exactly what the temperature is in the center of that steak every single time without fail. So that is my number one tool. You know, I don't have a whole lot of feelings in my fingers anymore, but these cotton gloves that you saw me put underneath my neoprene gloves, these are so easy. It buffers the heat, and I just throw these in the washer and wash them if I get anything on them. Just make sure you're putting some sort of plastic glove over these. But you know, I can't live without my gloves. Especially, I have little bitty hands, so when I go into a kitchen where there's a lot of hands, big guys, I have to take my own gloves. But you know, the other thing, I mean, always have a spatula tongs if you're cooking on something like a flat top or a grill. I cook a lot on my Argentinian grill. So I always need butcher's twine, some chains because I like to hang things. As you can see on the cover of the book, that's what we're doing there. Bistecca alla Fiorentina is something that I picked up in Florence, Italy, and that recipe's in here. And it's a really thick porterhouse, but so succulent, so juicy, and so flavorful. Don't be afraid, even if you can't have a lot of sodium, don't be afraid to season your food. Um, a lot of the recipes in here for seasonings, if you don't want to take the time to make it, I have a substitute, which will tell you in the book that you can just buy, and that way you don't have to worry about getting all the ingredients for all the seasonings. But, you know, it's just so easy to cook, have fun, and create something pretty special.
Gina asks, what's a good drink to have with your barbecue? And are there pictures of any recipes?
Okay, Gina, the best drink I think for barbecue, I really gotta love that grilled peach thyme margarita. It's so refreshing, and citrusy too. So that pairs really well with barbecue. I'll show you what the smoked berry sangria looks like. Can you see that? I hope you can. Oh my gosh, isn't that gorgeous? So refreshing. So I think the sangria, the mint julep, and the margarita are probably my favorites out of the book, for cocktails. Yeah. The pisco sours in the book, I picked that up in Peru. It's kinda like a margarita, but a little different. It's smooth, it's so smooth. But I really learned to love pisco sours, in Peru while we were there. We had so much fun, such good food. I mean, the ceviche there is to absolutely die for. So, um, going back to a dessert, we have a Basque cheesecake, which we cooked on the grill, and we put a strawberry coulis on top of it. And if you've never had strawberry coulis, it's one of those things that you need to have. I have a few things on my list of the things you must do in life. One is smell the bloom of a citrus tree, like a lemon or lime or orange. Smell that bloom. It does not smell like what you think it would. The floral notes in it are so nice, but learn where things come from. Strawberries in Italy are a little different than where I can get them in Mississippi. They are so good, but there are ways to make these things so fresh that especially if you're having guests over or you just want to impress your own family, that they'll love you for it.
What is your favorite way to dish up a pulled sandwich?
Nick asked, "What is the best way, my favorite way, to dish up a pulled pork sandwich?" I love fresh, clean pulled pork, and then I love to put slaw on top of it. The coleslaw recipe for my pulled pork sandwiches in the book. Um, the slaw that we make is, it's very crunchy, it's a little sweet, a little acidic, but it's so good and pairs so well with pork. And then I don't we don't put sauce on our pork typically, in the restaurant, so we let you put as much as you want to on. So, typically what I'll do is I'll just drizzle a little bit of sauce, as I'm eating the sandwich, but or you can do it on the sandwich on top of your slaw, but pulled pork, slaw, sauce on a really soft bun, that's a good day tater. Thanks, Nick, for the question.
Traditional Southern barbecue and granny flips.
So, Amy asked, what inspired me to branch out into broader horizons? I've never been a purist when it came to barbecue. I think there are many, many ways to achieve great barbecue. And as I was traveling, I would think about, oh, I can incorporate that into barbecue. Now, it's not going to be what we think of as traditional in the Memphis region of barbecue, but I bet it would be really good. And so I'd come home and try some of those things. And lo and behold, some of the best things I've ever had. I think reaching out, you never know if you're going to like it until you try it. I grew up in a very, very poor area. We didn't have different ethnic restaurants to go to and eat. There was no international flair. So I've really been drawn to it in my old age, I guess. And there's a little bit goes a long way sometimes until you find what you want. I just got back from the Middle East and the curries that they have there. I'll pull that in to some barbecue. But when you're looking at some adobo wings, which is not what we think of as buffalo wings here, but they are so good and they just have so much more flavor. So don't knock it till you try it.
And also asked favorite recipe in the book.
Okay, Amy, the favorite recipe in the book, I'm gonna have to say, oh, Lauren loves the pork belly. You know, I love the pork belly, I do. I love all pork. We cook so much pork, here in the Memphis region, um, but you remember the pork loin that we did with the blackberry honey mustard? Oh, that blackberry honey mustard, I don't know, there was just something about it that sang to me, and it just made me a happy girl, so I think I would have to go with that one today. Now you gotta realize we did this photo shoot almost a year ago, so at that time, it might have been something different than it is today, but thinking back on memories of things that I went back to and ate later, which wasn't much because you gotta realize we were cooking tons of recipes all in one day, and when your it's like if you work at a pizza joint, you work a 8 to 10-hour shift, you don't want pizza when you get home, but that's something that I went back to was that blackberry, honey mustard.
Chelsea, is there a specific trip or culture that changed how you think about cooking with fire?
Chelsea asked if there was a certain trip that changed how I think about cooking with fire. Sao Paulo, Brazil. They cook copious amounts of meat, and they're burning down and making their own coals from wood, using a bracero. That really appealed to me. I thought I was in heaven. That was my utopian moment, my aha moment, if you will, where, it's like, I wanna do that. I wanna hang pineapples and hang chickens and, put veggies on the grill. And if you have those V grates, as the meats are, rendering, the fats are rendering, you can catch in a trough those renderings, seed in the trough a little bit more, and baste with an herb brush what you have on the grill. That to me was, I want to cook this way. So as soon as I got home, I bought Argentinian style grill and still cook on it to this day. And that's been many years ago. I do have a lot of grills and smokers, and people ask me, "What's your favorite one?" And I'm like, "It depends on the mood I'm in, depends on what I'm cooking, how lazy I am, how tired I am." I love them all. They're like my children.
Chelsea asks, how do you decide when to stay authentic to a cuisine versus adapting it to barbecue technique?
Chelsea asked, "When do I stay authentic and when do I put my own spin on it?" You know, I've been developing recipes for so long, and I really want my neighbors and friends to feel comfortable in my home. So I'm gonna say that 99% of the time I put my spin on it. But there are things, you know, I was in Guatemala, and I had a cashew apple, and I took that cashew apple, you get 1 cashew from an apple, and, for some reason, I thought, "I'm gonna make a barbecue sauce with that," and I did. They had never even thought about using the apple in that way, so obviously I put my spin on that. But, like, when you're making things like I was in Puebla, Mexico, the moles, you have to stay true to the heritage of the mole, or it just doesn't work. So, I hope that answered your question. These are great questions.
Did stepping away from competition change how you approach this cook?
Did stepping away from competition change how I approach this cookbook? I'm gonna say no. I never wanted to be that person that these are the meats we cook in barbecue, and that's what I'm gonna focus on, and that's all I'll really know. I've always branched out, and brought things that maybe were not competitive to cooking with fire. And really, that's my definition of barbecue. Barbecue can be a noun, a verb, an adverb, but what is the definition of fire? I believe that if you cook with fire, if you cook with flames, even if it's gas assisted, it's barbecue. Um, y- I think that. they're just I've always had my mom said she knew she was in trouble because when I was a kid, 3 or 4 years old, I would like to play with food. I wasn't that interested in eating, but I would like to play with food because I'm a texture eater. I like feeling things and I like smelling things. So I just want to come up with something new, and maybe you'll like it too. I try not to ever, you know, uh, take somebody else's recipe, just because, I want it to be mine. I want it to have my flavors, which I try to make all of them very well rounded. But here's the thing: take a recipe, even in this book, take a recipe, make it yours. If you don't like an ingredient, don't put that ingredient in. A lot of people are not real happy about cilantro because I think we have a genetic predisposition to like or dislike cilantro. Leave it out, substitute it for something else, and I say that in the book. Um, you know, make this yours. This is a suggestion. Make it yours. And you can pre-order your signed copy. Just press the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment the word shop if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram to receive a link to purchase in your DMs. On YouTube, just click the link in the description and you can pre-order your autographed copy.
She said, Chef Michael Simon said you believe barbecue belongs to everyone. So how do you make it more accessible?
So yes, Michael Simon wrote the foreword to this cookbook, and if you know me at all, you know that he may possibly be my hero. I have spent a lot of time. He's Greek, and I have spent a lot of time in Greece, and there are a few Greek recipes in here which I don't want Michael to look at because I don't want him judging me, since I look so highly to him. But I'm sorry, what was the question? Michael Simon wrote the foreword. Yeah. So he says, I make barbecue accessible. Don't be intimidated by barbecue or any cooking. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I don't come from a long line of good cooks. It's something that I have a passion for. So I do it. I don't do it as much as I used to, thankfully, because I have a husband and a daughter that love to cook for me. So that's a lot of fun. But really, all of my books are about taking that intimidation factor away from people who just want to cook in their backyard, because that's what I want to do. I just want to cook in my backyard. And I think it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a great hobby to have. And you know what? The food's good at the end of the day.
Letting them cook.
Grill and Light asked about mopping ribs versus letting them cook. I will tell you that when I was judging Barbecue Showdown on Netflix, Thyron Matthews had this wonderful mop. Now, I'm pretty sure that he was putting it on at the end as well as mopping while he was cooking, and I love those vinegary flavors. Now, typically when we think about those vinegary flavors, we're thinking about the Carolina region of barbecue. I love them all different, all the 4 regions of barbecue in the States. I've never been a big mopper. I always felt like I'm spending so much time seasoning perfectly that a mop is just going to wash off the seasonings that I've just placed so delicately on there. So I've never been a big mopper, but I do love Thyron Matthews mop. I think it is just one of the best flavors that I've had. But I'm pretty sure he was putting it on at the end, and that's a big trade secret for competitive cooks, is to give a little whatever seasoning you've used, just reserve a little bit, maybe grind it up a little finer, and just put a little bit of seasoning. We call it flavor magic, on the top. Um, and that'll pop all the seasoning because those spices lose something when you cook over time, even if it's just 5 minutes, like we cook those shrimp. So just a little bit of extra seasoning right before you serve it goes a long way, and it will really enhance the flavor of any food that you cook.
Running a little short on time, but for those who have maybe just joined, maybe go over the inspiration behind the book.
Okay. So I'm being told that we're running a little short on time. I'd like to tell you about the inspiration behind this book. Everything from duck to Cornish game hens to pork butts to bashed cheesecake, mint juleps, grilled peach and thyme margaritas. You know, it came from my travels, and I don't know if you can see these pictures, but this is me in different parts of the world, and there's some in the back too. And me taking those ingredients, every culture has some version or history of cooking with fire, and taking those ingredients and putting my southern spin on those ingredients to be, you know, just to open up and broaden our horizons a little better on cultural flavors that I didn't have growing up. I know most people in the world are a lot more lucky than I am, but you know, I wanted to taste that for myself, and even at home, I can feel like I'm in the Middle East or in South America, Latin America, Europe, most notably Italy. So, or sitting in Crete, having that wonderful Cretan goat stew. So, you know, it's about a journey through food. Now, one more time, if you'd like to pre-order an autographed copy of Fanning the Flames, which is my newest cookbook, it drops April the 21st. You can press the shop button on Talk Shop Live or comment the word shop if you're watching from Facebook or Instagram to receive a link to purchase in your DMs. On YouTube, just click the link in the description and it'll take you right there and you can pre-order your autographed copy. I'm so excited about this book coming out. It's been a labor of love just because, you know, I didn't stay true to, I mean, you know, I don't think there's a competition for stuffed onions, but it's in the book. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm Melissa Cookston, and I thank Talk Shop Live for having me on tonight. And order your copy. My baby needs a new pair of shoes, or all the dogs that I have rescued. Bye. See you soon.